Vienna, Austria. It's a calm summer night in the Schönbrunn Palace. Security stationed outside, the night staff walking around inside. Everything is going smoothly, just like any other night. Suddenly, one of the staff members starts screaming in panic. Everyone in the palace quickly rushes to where the shouting is coming from, one of the private chambers, where historic and valuable pieces are stored. The staff member shouts at the security guards. The crown jewel was stolen, while pointing at a replica of the Sisi star, the last of 27 diamond and pearl hair ornaments won by the Empress of Austria in the late 1800s. Security starts rushing in every direction, trying to find any trace of the thief. Police cars surround the palace's perimeter, enforcing random searches on anyone they come across. Everyone is searching for one of the most valuable pieces in Austrian history. But what they haven't realized yet is that the Sisi star was stolen 2 weeks ago. And that jewel thief wasn't any regular thief, it was Gerald Blanchard, once called the world's most ingenious thief.
Things that the police didn't know anything about, he was telling them about.
He is very good at showing off.
How are we going to bring him to the courts and prosecute him?
It was much later that the world would realize that Sisi's star theft was only the tip of the iceberg. Who is Blanchard? What were his motives? How did he pull off one of the most complicated heists of all time? A heist that no one believed was possible. Gerald Daniel Blanchard grew up in Canada as an adopted child. He later moved to Omaha, Nebraska with his mother, Carol, and sister after his parents' breakup. He was quite a nerdy teenager trying to fit in. He developed an interest in taking apart electronics, which led him to getting his first camera. The camera would later change everything. Meanwhile, things were not going well for Gerald. Money was tight as his mother was struggling to make ends meet. He had to take matters into his own hands. What started as small incidents of shoplifting soon developed into bigger and bigger robberies. And of course, he filmed everything. He loved being the center of attention.
He liked that attention.
Blanchard developed a contentious relationship with banks in his younger days. When one attempted to foreclose the house he shared with his family in Nebraska, Gerald took it personally. He started using his knowledge of electronics to steal money from ATMs. At the age of 15, he masterminded his first big heist, cleaning out a local Radio Shack store. Put on probation shortly thereafter, he was earning six figures through numerous illegal schemes. His crimes made him somewhat of a local celebrity, but they also made him a target for law enforcement. After escaping custody twice, once crawling on the police station's roof and another time driving away with a police car, he was deported back to Canada. That's when the story should have ended, but Blanchard had other plans in mind. In 1997, he was dropped off in Winnipeg, Canada, penniless, but that didn't last very long. As his hatred for banks deepened, he used his electronics genius to calculate a way to steal cash from ATMs. His target was a brand new CIBC mega bank in which he sauntered off with $750,000 in Canadian dollars. The night before the branch and its 7 filled to the brim ATMs were scheduled to open for business.
Tonight, a sophisticated robbery at a CIBC branch in the Polo Park area.
This CIBC branch in Empress Street hadn't even opened yet, but its automatic teller machines...
8 ATMs were robbed while the bank was still under construction. More than $500,000 was stolen.
It's got authorities shaking their heads over the high level of sophistication it took to pull this off.
Blanchard started living the movie star life, driving supercars, getting access to Formula One VIP seats, traveling across Europe, going out with models, and of course, stealing everywhere he went. He used multiple identities, which allowed him to escape the police in many encounters. On one of his trips, he met Ramona.
And your name is? Ramona Haas.
A German girl he ended up marrying soon after. Ramona's family was wealthy, which helped give Blanchard the perfect explanation of his lavish lifestyle to his mom and close ones. In the summer of 1998, his German father-in-law decided to take them on a private tour of the Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna. That's when Gerald saw the Sisi star displayed for the first time. From the moment he saw the jewel, he felt an obligation to steal it. Gerald isn't much of an art enthusiast, but the jewel was a huge bargaining chip he could use for future crimes. It's June 1998. While his body was with his wife, joking and hanging around in Austria, his mind was planning the biggest heist of his criminal career so far. It's late in the evening, Ramona is in the hotel sleeping, and Gerald is on a small plane over the skies of Vienna. Blanchard tells the pilot to slow down and jumps off the plane. He opens his parachute and lands on the roof of the castle. He throws the parachute next to the garbage bins and climbs down the palace's facade. He breaks in through the window where the Sisi star is showcased. The building's windows normally launch the alarm when opened from the outside. In this case, nothing happened. Blanchard gets to the jewel, removes the glass housing, the security screws, and somehow deactivates the pressure-sensitive device placed under the piece. Whether the alarm systems were cheated by Gerald on the spot, or he had accomplices from the inside, is still a mystery to this day. He replaces the real jewel with a gift shop replica he bought earlier that day and climbs down the palace, reaching the gardens, and eventually making his way out without anyone noticing. One of the rarest pieces in Austria's history is now gone. In the next few weeks, Blanchard felt guilty that his wife was still unaware of his criminal career. He decided to tell her about who he really was. As expected, she couldn't handle his crime-filled past and asked for divorce. Gerald packed his bags and took a flight home. He hid the Austrian jewel in his grandmother's basement, reconnected with his associate from back in the day, and got himself a new girlfriend. Things were calm for a while for Blanchard until he met someone who he referred to as the boss. The boss was a big credit card fraudster based in England who introduced Gerald to the game of credit card fraud. Out of nowhere, the boss calls him, instructing him to take the next flight to Cairo, Egypt, along with 1 or 2 associates who will help him with the next operation.
Egypt? Kidding me? That's where I'm being sent to.
He takes his girlfriend Angela with him and calls up his former associate Balum to meet him there. In the next few days, the three would empty the ATMs of Cairo, withdrawing hundreds of thousands of dollars using stolen or made-up debit cards. Sometimes they would dress in burqas to avoid surveillance cameras. However, the whole operation took a wrong turn when Gerald's associate Balum decided to steal the boss's money, along with numerous credit cards, and run away to Africa. The boss put Gerald, who was afraid for his life, on a plane to Vancouver. Blanchard needed to execute another job as restitution, which made him realize that the boss wasn't just a fraudster, but rather the leader of a giant crime organization operating worldwide. And Blanchard's mission was to play the middleman in an arms deal. Only 2 hours after getting off the plane, he stopped by another bank for a quick heist. He noticed an unusual presence of cops in the area, so he decided to go home and lay low. But what he didn't know was that 2 Canadian detectives were tapping his calls all along.
I myself, I want to lay very low right now. Actually, I don't want to talk about this one.
Thank you for calling Canada Police.
They've been waiting for incriminating evidence for years to make a move, and they finally had it. Both his accomplice in the bank job, John Doe, and his former girlfriend, Angela James, made deals with the police.
John Doe was actually the one that went into the bank with me to unload the ATM machines. He went behind everyone's back at that time and to make a deal with the police to get off on his federal gun charges in the States.
The evidence against Blanchard was overwhelming. Fake identities, witnesses, camera footage, piles of cash, and the list goes on. Blanchard was indicted on 16 counts of theft and fraud, facing a maximum sentence of 164 years in prison. However, he ended up being sentenced to just 8 years.
I could have stopped.
After giving the banks their money back, and of course, returning Sisi's star. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.